Welcome everyone back to Monster Hunter World. Today's episode is going to be another weapon test. Today we'll be testing the regular bow. Um, what differs between this weapon? I've used it a little bit before. But what the main thing that differs between this one is that it technically has unlimited ammunition. However, you get what's called coatings, which is a kind of a poison or powder that you put on your actual weapon itself that changes up what it does. Now, I've not used the weapon in actual combat, I have used it in the training room. Now, I do like its idea, don't get me wrong. However, because I haven't actually tested it out in the field yet, I don't really know how effective it's going to be. Okay. Now that being said, if this one goes as short as the last episode did, then I'm going to add a little bit extra because I think I've located the Palico tribe in the Rotten Vale. And I've got a little bit of a hint saying that it's hungry, so I'm thinking I need to bring some type of food in order to actually befriend them. I don't know if I need to put down a trap and catch them, so I'll bring traps as well. Also, I spent an enormous amount of time yesterday working on missing armor and equipment. While my weapons, I haven't really advanced very much on them, but I am close to having all of the white armor. All I've got is the Kadachi armor left, and once the Kadachi armor is finished, then I'll have all of the all of the beginning armors. Okay. Now, and also my armor I'm wearing is almost completely finished. Alright, to do the weapons test, I'm going to be fighting, I'm using the Kadachi bow, which is a lightning element, so I need to use this weapon against something that is, I'm guessing something weak against actual lightning, and I have an idea of what I'm going to test it against. It's one of the creatures that I've ground a fairly decent amount of, and it didn't seem, and it does, I don't believe he's going to be too much of an issue in order to actually go ahead and get him pushed out of the way. Okay, and let's throw these up, and there we go. Okay, now we're going to be fighting, I'm gonna have to go down and grab the investigation for him so I can tell you his name. But basically, it's the fish type monster. Fish type monster that shows up in the wastes. He's not too particularly hard. I've never really had any issue with him, unlike some of the other water creatures in the past games. This one's pretty tame. I know in the past games, the water-based creatures were really dangerous because it did not take a lot for them to overpower you, especially where you had to fight them underwater, and fighting those things underwater was typically a no-go. If you had to fight it underwater, your best bet would be just to try to draw it back to land, because the water-based combat system was pretty rough. Alright, I'm gonna bring just in case. I don't think I'll need it, but I'm gonna just bring it just in case that I figure that it'll help. Okay, now I am going to, like I said, I'm started doing my weapons test, and these are mainly to give me a little bit of extra time to finish up some of the grinding I need to do, so that you guys don't actually have to watch all of this grinding. Um, I will be making an advancement on the Diablos here soon. I do not believe the Diablos is going to be that big of a problem. Um, I've fought him before, and while he does seem to have wings, the last time we fought him, he stayed mainly to the ground. So I can't guarantee that's going to happen this time around as well. So, as a precaution, I'm thinking I might need to bring my ranged weapon. Now, if it turns out that my ranged weapon and I get beaten, and it turns out that actually my ranged weapon is, while helpful, isn't a perfect match for this one, because my ranged weapon is mainly for units that are going to stay mostly in the air. Then I'll switch back to my blade. Also, if you noticed, I've changed my Palico's armor. I beat the Rathian to complete some of the little extra quests. The Rathian's fight is not too much different from the Rathlos. Only difference is that the Rathian is a lot smaller, and instead of it doing when it flies up in the air and sprays the ground with fire, it will occasionally land on the ground and start firing like 3 or 4 fireballs at once in several different locations. The Rathian itself is kind of, if you've not beaten the Rathlos yet, fight the Rathian and it'll give you a relatively good standing on if you can beat the Rathian or the Rathlos or not, because they're not too much different. Only difference is, like I said, one's smaller and a little bit weaker. My thoughts is the Rathian is like easy mode of the Rathlos. So yeah. All the other weapons, even though I'm doing tests of them, I probably won't. If I do decide to fill out my list and have all the different variations of them, it probably won't be until end game, when it is mostly grinding anyways. Because there's going to be a lot of grinding in the end game to prep for fighting the end game creatures. Now, that being said, I can't guarantee.
Focus on your distance while loosing arrows.
Now, the thing about these in-game monsters is that they're probably, if they're going to be fought single, they're going to be a little more difficult to actually take care of in single mode. Ow. I don't know why he was all of a sudden started quick shooting, but as you can see, the bow itself at the moment is kind of slower, and I don't got really a terribly good Quit firing. But it's kind of a mid-range weapon. It does, if you gotta kind of look for the sweet spot in terms of range where you need to be to do maximum damage. If you're too close, then you're not going to do a whole lot of damage. If you're too far away, you're not going to do a whole lot of damage. Like right now, I'm kind of in the sweet spot. See how I'm doing a little more damage than usual, and it does actually considerable damage if you aim it right. It's like I was just hitting 3 9s in one shot. So it's not a bad little weapon, and it's actually vastly underrated. A lot of people don't really look into this particular weapon. Now we just applied a coating, and let's see the difference in the weapon damage. Missed. It doesn't look like we're changing up any amount of damage. Okay, so far the power coating wasn't all that great. But that being said, this bow is not really powerful on its own. It's actually fairly stock. I think it's still a rarity 1, and it's like a power rating of 145. While that being said, it's still a pretty powerful little weapon if you use it correctly. It's a lot faster than the other weapons. You don't have to reload. It doesn't get sharpened. Only difference is you're a little bit slower than when you're aiming. I don't know why it does that sometimes. Yeah, those two really hate each other. It seems like every time any one of them show up on the battlefield, they immediately just ignore me and start fighting. Let me get my close range. Oh, I see why. All of a sudden I start just firing randomly in a very quick succession. I ran out of stamina. I wasn't paying attention. Okay, so I did notice that it does use a fair amount of stamina to maintain this weapon's fire rate. As you can see, I'm doing actually some pretty good damage up close. I'm doing about a little over 30 points, sometimes 30, sometimes a little over 30 points of damage, depending on if I'm close enough to strike him with my weapon. So this is actually a really good weapon for damage. I mean, for burst damage, it does more damage than my blade does. And a much faster rate if you can stay at a good range for it. Now the coatings do help. You just gotta learn how to use them. I've not played a whole lot of the game of this particular weapon, so I don't know much about the coatings other than paralysis weapon coating. Obviously, each shot gives you increases the chances of you actually paralyzing them. Power coating was supposed to do some additional damage, but yeah, at one time this was originally going to be the weapon I was going to choose until I saw the insect glaives. So sorry, I have to scratch my eye. Alright, there we go. But yeah, from my understanding, from what I've been noticing, is that even from like forums I've been reading, when people talking about the different weapons and stuff, people really don't like this weapon. There's not a whole lot of people that use it, mainly because of, from my understanding, it has to do with the coatings. A lot of the coatings in this game apparently doesn't get opened up until late game, by the time late game comes around, this weapon is often forgotten due to, well, they've essentially gotten around to using their other weapons. And even without the coatings, as you can see, if you get your ranges right, and if you can dodge better than me, then this is actually a really good weapon. It's a good weapon for fighting ground-based and a really good weapon for fighting aerials too. You just got to get your shots right. If you hit their weak points, as you saw, anytime I struck him in a good spot, I was easily doing about 30 points of damage, and if not more. And that by itself is awesome, to be honest, because even my bow guns do nowhere near that damage. The heavy can, but that's only when he's using his specialized ammunition. And then the light bow gun can as well, but once again, it's using his wavering blast, and that thing, those are more like traps that you put in place to, and hopefully draw the enemy into, or like I do, knock them down and place all of them beside of him and blast him for real large amounts of damage at once. And as for my involving my blade, the only reason why my blade can compare to the amount of damage this thing's able to put out in burst is I can swing my weapon faster. So I get about 3 hits about as fast as this thing fires off one full set of charge if it hits the critical locations. And even then, there are times that if I'm not hitting the right spots, even with my blade, that this thing would outperform my blade damage-wise. So, this is actually a really good weapon if you can actually learn to use it and stick with it. I won't be doing the other weapons. I'm just going to put them out slowly. Hopefully I can finish up my little what do you call it? My gathering mission, solo gathering here fairly soon, so that we can do some little bit of progress, and I won't have to bore you guys with just weapon tests. Now that being said, we're going to go on an excavation. Now that that's done, and that went pretty quickly. This excavation, we're going into Rotten Vale, and we're going to see if my theory about getting the Palico tribe in this area on our side is simply by giving it some food. Raw meat, I'm hoping is what it's looking for. If not, then I may have to do this in a another episode, after I've done a little bit of research in order to figure out what's going on. And I don't make it a habit of looking things up if I don't have to. If I can figure it out on my own, that's awesome. It's one of the things I loved about the old, this is getting off track, I'm sorry, but there was a game that was out, the original version of The Secret World. I not played the new incarnation of it, but mainly because I loved the original incarnation, even though I didn't get very far in the game, which is kind of sad because, like I said, I do love that game quite a bit. And the only problem about that game, reason why I didn't get too far into it, you're not who I'm looking for, is mainly due to in my mind, it's a heavy multiplayer game, and I don't really have a whole lot of people to play with on it. So because of that, I never could get too far into the game. Okay, as you're noticing, where I'm going is where I've located the Palico. Now he kind of runs off. here in just a minute. Okay. It said for me to hide, but I don't exactly know where to hide. Maybe right here. That's what I figured. Okay, let's see. And there we go. Plunderers. And there we have it. Plunder blade. Alright. Now that that's taken care of, let's go back to camp and take a look at our new little toy. And from the looks of it, that might be the last of them. From the looks of the map, it looks like there might potentially be a couple more areas. I may be off base on this, because there are some sections in the map that looks like it's still relatively covered up. We might have at least 2 more places, I hope, other than the Rotten Vale. I'm not sure. I'd actually have to look that up to find out. But if not, oh well. If we do, awesome.
Next up, Diablos.
But since I took him out, the Rathlos, Diablos, like I said, we fought him before. He shouldn't be too much of a big deal. I might be underestimating him, but once again, we did fight him once before. So we'll find out in a little bit about the changes. Alright, let's see what we got here. Okay, let's see. The Plunder Blade, an invention of the plunderers that snatches items from monsters when attacking. The quantity of the stolen items, or the quality No, it's quantity. Increases with proficiency. Okay, it lasts your guy to steal. I do need to actually do a little bit of let them grow their proficiency with these a little bit so I can max them out as well. Okay, and well, that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and um, well, if you did enjoy it, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, it helps, and comment. Comment actually gives me a little bit of information if they're constructive comments. Anyways, helps me figure out what you guys want to see, um, and what I can actually, how I can actually improve on my videos. I know there's some things that I do need to improve upon, and it's just a matter of figuring them out. Um, but yeah, like I said, if other than that, have a good day, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.